This is the Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast.
Oh no! We suck again!
I'm getting confused. What game are you calling?
I'm calling both games.
It is caught by Kelsey! Touchdown! Kansas City!
Anthony for three. Bang!
How's it going, ladies, gentlemen, and sports fans alike? Welcome to the Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast. I'm Ruckus the Menace.
And I'm Ruckus, always causing a ruckus.
And on this episode of Ruckus and the Menace, we will be going over the College World Series updates, including tonight's matchup, which is winner take all between the LSU Tigers and Florida Gators. The going over things in the NBA offseason. Introducing our good, bad, and ugly this week. Going into a color commentary segment where we have things on 4 baseball teams and seeing if we can make a little bit of a hot take prognostication on some of these teams that have been white hot throughout the entire season or more recently, and seeing what we may think. And then we will go over our primetime game that we and recapping the divisions that we have selected for this particular game. All rounding out with our stud and done. And we will get right into the episode. Ruckus, what's kind of been up with you?
I mean, as far as just in general things, I've been in the mix on video game side of things. I've been in the mix between Battlefield and MLB The Show. I've been mainly playing Battlefield since I want to grind through the new season. Other than that, I've been just kind of playing what I feel like playing. The show feels very grindy, so I've just been mainly waiting for the monthly series stuff to come out. And the May monthly came out like a few weeks ago, and I've just now started to kind of grind through that. As far as the other Tops Now stuff, I'm now starting to get through that for the June stuff. But yeah, as far as stuff I've been watching, there's this movie that I picked up at Target called Sweetwater, and it's about this basketball player that was in the that was not really allowed in the National Basketball Association until later on when people in the higher ups decided that they wanted to at least have one Negro player play in the NBA. And one of those players happened to be Clifton Sweetwater, who played for the Globetrotters, and then went in his way and got his contract bought by the New York Knickerbockers, which is now known as the Knicks. And yeah, that movie was pretty good as far as a adaptation of what it was like as a Negro basketball player going from the Globetrotters to the Bigs. It's a pretty good movie. I recommend it.
Yep. And then today for me was the first day on the new job. I was out of town for the weekend involving time with family, and also had hibachi for dinner on Saturday night.
Ooh, I'm jealous.
Shrimp. And I'm sure you know exactly what comes with this. Shrimp toss pop flies.
No can of corn?
Oh. I mean, I'm just saying shrimp toss pop flies because that... Because basically how you're supposed to really catch the shrimp is actually pretty much like you're doing pop fly. Like you're tossing a ball, like you're drilling in pop flies.
Oh, that almost sounds like Bubba on Forrest Gump. Oh, we got popcorn shrimp, butterfly shrimp, tossed shrimp, shrimp top fly shrimp, shrimp gumbo, shrimp, fried shrimp.
Ugh. And then I found this little gem, a Wordle type game called Immaculate Grid for baseball. And there are some things with it that are quite difficult. And of course this week we had to, or at least it changes daily what each particular thing is, and you have 9 guesses to fill out all 9 slots.
All right.
And it had some challenging ones. I mean, there's a few of them that honestly have been a lot of fun. And what it is that you have a 3x3 grid. You have to match the cell. Extra cells. So say you have one side's got the Reds and one side's got the Astros. In that particular cell, where the Reds and the Astros meet, you have to pick at least a player who has played at least one game for those two franchises. If they're, say, for like a 30 stolen base season, you have to pick a player who was a Houston Astro who stole 30 bases in a season for the Astros. Then a player who won an MVP as a Red or as a Pirate. Or say a player who was a member of the Philadelphia Phillies who won a World Series with the Phillies. So you get a combination of two teams accomplishments, teams awards, and you only have 9 guesses to get all 9. So that's been a fun challenge for me. But other than that, I mean, I've been playing whenever I can some Magic, some Legends of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, Diablo 4. Haven't been on my console, but except for what's going to be of this primetime game. But we're going to go right into, as I was talking about the Immaculate Grid, we're going to go right into the college baseball update.
Omaha.
The Omaha update, as...
Do you hear that shit, Peyton Manning? I gave you free advertising.
As what we have going on. And I'm going to name this for every team that we had remaining up to this point. We were down to 6 as of last week. On Tuesday, Oral Roberts and Tennessee were both eliminated, as Oral Roberts was eliminated by TCU in a 6-1 loss, and Tennessee was blanked by LSU 5-0. TCU only lasted a day later, as the Florida Gators defeated them 3-2 to advance to the College World Series final. But the other side of the bracket, it took a little bit longer. LSU had, or actually it was Wake Forest, had a win in their in situation, and they lost them both. They lost 5-2 on Wednesday and 2-0 in 11 innings a couple days later, or the next day, as the LSU Tigers advanced to the final. The final is a best of 3 in the College World Series. And in game 1, LSU defeated Florida 4-3 in 11 innings. In game 2, Florida makes the series winner take all as they just went and dismantled LSU 24-4. But the dismantling has gone on the other foot in game 3 at the moment, as currently, as of this time in recording, LSU is leading Florida 10-6, or no, 10-2 in the top of the 6th.
Dang. So if Coach O was there, he'd probably be saying, "Go Tigers!"
Oh my goodness. But we still have 3 innings to play, and the question is for these next few innings, has Florida exhausted everything they had, or did LSU just kind of have like a little bit more of like a hot streak? Had a hot streak just waiting to happen.
Is it a best of 4 or a best of 5?
Nope, it's winner take all.
Because you
This is
said it
winner
was
take all.
winner take all, but they...
No, it's a best of 3.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
That's
the
what I
series
was
is a
asking.
best of 3. The best of 3, but tonight's game is winner take all.
Okay. That's what I was wondering. My bad. I should have... Anyways.
Yeah, that's what... Yeah, that probably should have been you paid attention on the front end of that.
Whoopsie!
Because I said that it was a best of 3 going into that. But, now, Ruckus, now you gotta go through my writing of the NBA.
Oh, that should be easy peasy lemon squeezy. Alright. So for the NBA, we have I'll start with the NBA draft. We have Wemby goes first overall
Or
to
Victor Wembanyama. I just basically put Wemby there, just I haven't been saying it, but it's Victor Wembanyama.
So the Andrew Luck of NBA goes first overall to San Antonio. Brandon Miller second to Charlotte, and Scoot Henderson third to the Blazers. Twins Amen and Asar Thompson go fourth and fifth to the Rockets and Pistons respectively.
And I'm mentioning these two notably. I'm gonna mention this as also a nugget here. Is that this is the first time this has ever happened that a set of not that a set of twins has gone in the NBA, but a set of twins has been picked in the top 5 of a draft.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead. Sorry.
you obviously had Marcus and Markieff Morris, but none of them were picked extremely. Neither player in that case was picked extremely high.
And I think one of them went to the Wizards and one of them went to crap. One of them went to the Wizards and one of them went to the Clippers?
I mean,
Because eventually one of them went to the Lakers and won a championship in the bubble, I think.
they went back to back. They went back to back in 2011. But they went to 2 different teams.
Part of me feels like they're both
Markieff-
retired.
Yeah, but they were lottery picks as well. But this is the first time it was in the top 10. Markieff went to the Phoenix Suns,
That rings a bell, yeah.
and Marcus went to the Rockets on draft day.
Sounds right.
Yeah, I actually looked it up just to be sure.
Alright, are we ready for NBA trades?
Yep.
Alright, so here's the bread and butter so far for the NBA trades. As CP3, Chris Paul, the original State Farm man, besides Aaron Rodgers, CP3 was traded twice in a span of a week. First, he was traded to DC in a deal that sent Bradley Beal to Phoenix, and then the second trade was to Golden State for Jordan Poole in a pick.
Yep.
And then, as far as the Wizards go, Wizards continue to be active in trading players, uh, which means they sent Kristaps Porzingis to Boston in a three-team deal that also brought Danilo Gallinari
Danilo Gallinari.
Danilo Gallinari. There we go. To DC, and then Marcus Smart, the loyal Celtic, is now a Memphis Grizzly. And Kristaps Porzingis is well known for being a New York Knick that got traded to the Dallas Mavericks and then eventually went to the Washington Wizards and is now a Boston Celtic. Did the Wizards get a trade for him from Dallas at some point?
Yeah, the Wizards traded got Porzingis in a deal from Dallas. Yes.
All right, cool. But yes.
So that's why. Yeah. So Kristaps was dealt. It was a completely separate deal, and I think Porzingis had been in Washington for at least a year, maybe two, before they shipped him off.
All right.
And that ship off was a little more recently.
And then Marcus Smart was kind of the big surprise with him going to the Memphis Grizzlies, but we'll see how this pans out eventually in October whenever they match up again. And then the next big one, which is kind of big.
Well, I'm gonna pause you here for a second because I believe that this Marcus Smart deal is to kind of give them a little bit of a stopgap because they are currently going to be playing, that the Grizzlies are currently playing without Ja Morant. Because I don't know if any appeal has come in for his 25-game suspension, but the Grizzlies will be playing the first 25 games at the moment because of Ja Morant's suspension. It was kind of smart, no pun intended, for them to get the former Oklahoma State point guard.
Y'all know what it is.
That was worse. that no, you're going to the penalty box for that one.
Ja. No, I'm just kidding. All right, cringe is over for this episode. All right.
I don't know about all that now, but you've got at least a 2-minute minor in the penalty box for that one.
Oh man. Oh jeez. Okay, here's the last one for me as far as the NBA trades. John Collins from the Atlanta Hawks is being traded to the Utah Jazz for Rudy Gay.
And I'm sure there's going to be some other picks kind of cycling around with that, but those are the two major pieces in that deal, and it may move John Collins to the 5 officially, because he kind of plays a little bit more like a center anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that this might be ultimately a good move for John Collins in the long run. I don't know whether that's going to be for playoff implications, but it at least gets him somewhere.
Yep.
And now we go to the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Okay, so the current good that I have this week is MLB's current home run race. I mean, granted that we talked about last week with stolen bases, but some notable things have kind of came up, and that the home run race has kind of tightened up.
It's more like boiled up, but yeah, pretty much. You're on par.
I was saying tightened up because we have... I don't want that. Doing that. Stop. But although we have Luis Ariz batting .399, that's beside the point. The home run race is set with Matt Olson and Shohei Ohtani leading the way with 25 home runs. Pete Alonso, who we were saying he was dealing with a minor injury, has picked up 2 more home runs since that.
And surprisingly, that man had come from an injury sooner than people thought too, which I was surprised even too as a fantasy baseball owner of him. But all right, let's get into the other
picked up
nitty gritty.
2 more home runs with he has 24. Jorge Soler and Luis Robert were just happened to have a poet and didn't even know it at this point because of the rhyming of those 2 names. Have 21 home runs apiece.
You know what's crazy with that too is
And then
Arise has recently gotten 2 home runs during the weekend. I didn't even realize that. Yeah. But that doesn't matter to this. Sorry.
But here are some other people who are not that far behind. Kyle Schwarber's got 20. Mookie Betts and Aaron Judge have 19.
Mookie!
Max Muncy and surprisingly Ozzy Albies are at 18 home runs, along with Rafael Devers. Mike Trout, Adolis Garcia, Yordan Alvarez, and Jake Berger all have 17.
Speaking of Adolis Garcia, he has the most RBIs in the MLB, I believe, with 60, or the first of 60, right?
I think Shohei just passed him.
Okay.
Shohei just passed him more recently with 61.
Ooh.
But other people right around the 15 home run mark. JD Martinez, Ronald Acuna Jr., and Corbin Carroll with 16. And then here are the players that also have 15 home runs. Salvador Perez, Nolan Arenado, Marcell Ozuna, Francisco Lindor, Christian Walker, Fernando Tatis Jr., Jack Sawinski, Nolan Gorman, and Josh Young. And then from there, you've got other people that are shockingly coming out with 14 home runs, including a Ketel Marte, known for being a contact hitter. So you're seeing a lot of, while we've had a lot more stolen bases happen recently, I think the pitch clock has kind of put pitches hanging over the plate a little more at times.
Yep.
And that has led to more home runs coming off the bat overall. But the home run leaders are all somewhat close. But the not so good does involve one of these players who has 19 home runs. And Aaron Judge, as he's torn a ligament in his toe. And the Yankees have kind of been playing a little bit down without him.
Yeah, and you know it's bad whenever when 2 rookies or 2 no-name players are doing the best out of the whole team. And especially when they designated Aaron Hicks for assignment like about a month ago, or at least it seems that way.
And he's thriving as a Baltimore Oriole.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But where I'm at with Aaron Hicks is that honestly, Aaron Hicks just needed a one-way ticket out of New York.
What he needed is a beard, my guy, because in New York, you don't get such thing as a beard. You have to shave that off.
If you go to the Bronx, you cannot have a beard. You can have a mustache, but you can't have a beard.
Right, in the Yankees organization.
If you go to Queens, you can.
And then if you become a family member like Kevin James did in the King of Queens, then you can have a beard.
Well, but I'm saying like, yeah, if you're a New York Met, yeah, you can.
Yep.
But I also am a firm believer that Johnny Damon, granted that both we were saying he was a former Royal, but where were some of his best years?
The Red Sox.
Yep. And what did he have? A caveman beard.
Dude looked like
He
a
basically-
caveman.
He basically looked like an MLB version of the Geico caveman, but yet he was a leader in that clubhouse there in Boston.
My guy invented the wheel in Boston.
And that bus kept going, and that bus's wheels kept going round and round.
It went to the harbor and back with some lobster.
And a couple of commissioner's trophies while we're at it.
Um,
Considering that out of the last 20 years, we have a grand total of 4. 4 in the last 20 years. I'm not complaining.
alright. Are we ready for the next segment?
Yes, we are ready. Well, we still have the ugly.
Oh, crap, my bad. I'll go over the ugly real quick, because I'm definitely
We're
ugly.
like the Mets at this point with this segment. It's falling apart.
Dude, the Mets, I don't know how the hell you throw more crap into a fan and then hope that something happens, but my god, the New York Mets, what the hell are you doing? Mr. Cohen, explain yourself. Yes, you can make it rain on me all you want. Believe me, I would like to, get some of that, cash money like the other players are getting, but your team is falling apart, especially when it matters most, against another rival team in your division. And they fell apart against the Phillies in the 8th inning on Sunday. There was a bad error and bases were loaded to where a walk happened and then 2 straight bases were loaded and then a hit by pitch gave the Phillies a lead. What are you doing? What the hell? Get your shit together. For the love of God. You have 2 Cy Young worthy pitchers that are kind of hurt. You have money that you should have spent elsewhere. Yes, you have Nemo, but he is playing like garbage. Alonso is like the best hitter on your team, and he's hitting dingers and hitting so many that he's hurting his frickin' hand. Get it together. You gave away Michael Conforto. You gave away JD Davis. What are you doing?
And the Conforto one on top of that was for absolutely nothing.
That was a nothing burger. Dude, that nothing burger has been sitting in the New York, Brooklyn streets for years, and it's been reeking. Get your shit together.
I mean, that big old nothing burger that you gave away. Well, the big old nothing burger that you got has, granted, it amounted to about money that you should have spent that you really probably didn't need to spend.
And he gave it to a reject from Oakland that played 1 good season. Yes, I'm talking about Mark Hanna. And yet, the sad part about Oakland was they were going to sell off their team anyways. Which maybe 2 people actually did well out of that. You're talking Olsen and Murphy, which are on the same exact team.
Yeah, went to their division rival, the Braves.
Again, what the hell are you doing, Mets? What the hell? Alright, are we ready for the color commentary?
That's a sign that the owner needs to better manage things. Fire a GM. Do something. They gotta have some heads roll. They might need to sell some players at the deadline.
I mean, they already traded Eduardo Escobar earlier last weekend to the Los Angeles Angels since they weren't really using him. And plus, the Angels needed extra help, but we will get into later.
Jeff McNeil needed. I think Jeff McNeil needs dealt. I think if you really want to have a good thriving team.
What about dealt for assignment? What about dealt for assignment on Jeff McNeil? That man needs a new plate of scenery. Maybe the Rays get McNeil. Hell, I don't know. Something.
The Rays are generally not buyers. The Rays are generally going to be one of those teams that are rather going to have their prospects there and be able to just homegrown to what they need to.
And the thing is with the Angels too, like the Angels were looking pretty rough for like the past 4 years or longer than that, and now all of a sudden they're thriving. Like,
I'm going to say this: the Rays are the best at. I would say here's where the Rays excel. The Rays excel at flipping prospects. They flip prospects, turn them into turn them into solid players, trade them off to get more decent prospects, flip them into flip them into major leaguers that make it and become good players, trade them off. They basically have made their living over the last, I wouldn't even say the last 25 years because it wasn't fully like that. But they've made their mantra pretty much as the team that flips prospects. They're prospect flippers. But now we go straight into the color commentary where we're doing hot take prognostication. And now that we're talking about the Rays, we're going to talk about this ultimate prospect flipping team, as they currently have the best record in the AL, and let alone also, I believe it's also the best record in the majors at 54-27. Shane McClanahan's a Cy Young contender, and in the AL East, that has been with every team above 500 and teams that are at the very bottom are playoff teams in divisions that clearly ain't got none. Sorry, Ruckus. I'm sorry if I'm bashing the AL Central with that and saying that they clearly got none.
Are you really sorry? Because it's honestly the truth with the AL Central. Because it's here's the thing. There's the
for being so blunt that.
Here's the thing.
So blunt that it could hurt.
The AL Central is a literal big, expensive game of chicken. No one wants the first place seed, it seems. No one gives enough of a shit to go into that seed. The White Sox, The Twins, well, good luck trying to actually win a playoff game when it matters. The Guardians, I guess, like, are we supposed to do it? The Tigers, good luck. The Royals, maybe in a wild card spot.
Oh no, the White Sox are falling apart too. I mean, the Royals not in this, not on the rest of our current lifetimes at the moment.
Dude, the White Sox might as well just throw their socks into the dumpster fire that is the Royals. At this point.
Well, the White Sox, I think, are dealing with a bunch of, like, health issues.
Oh, boo-hoo, so are we.
Unlike the Royals, the White Sox could have been one of those teams that may have been a sleeper that we were thinking of in the AL Central.
Right.
A little more so than the Royals.
I think if Eloy Jimenez stayed healthy, sure. Robert, make sure that you change out his horseshoe every so often so that he could run and not break a toe or a foot. Everyone else that was paid... Yoan Moncada's been a bust since... Dude, Yoan Moncada has been kind of a bust since he got traded from the Red Sox to the White Sox. And that's saying something.
Yoan Moncada, not Yoan Moncada. Yasmani Grandal has become non-existent as well.
Right, I'm not saying that he was the greatest either. But yeah, like, Moncada, like, He is. They touted him as like a top prospect whenever he got traded for Sale, but my God, he has regressed heavily.
Well, Moncada's regressed. Sale has become a shell of his health.
Well, that's what happens when you get into a bicycle accident. Can't let him have a bike.
I think there were elbow issues before that. The old Tommy John was what got him in. The bike accident just happened to exacerbate the problems.
And as far as other White Sox
but
stuff,
at least comparatively, Chris Sale got a ring out of it. At least Chris Sale got a ring out of it.
yep, and he didn't have to quote the Beyonce song for it either. But as far as like the playoff appearances that the White Sox have had, not very good, but still probably better than what the Twins have had to endure for like the past like 2 decades, where they had to face off against the Yankees and then they lose every time that it happened. It didn't matter who they were. They always lost.
But in spite of all of this digression, let's get to the original question that was at hand.
Yes, sir.
Do the Rays have enough as far as on the table, in the tank, to make the World Series for the second time in 4 years?
I think
they last made the World Series in 2020.
I think what they need is maybe a little bit more backup in the bullpen, but also some backup in the offensive side of things, because it's not a guarantee that most of these guys stay healthy near August into September. Like Rosarena, like yes, he's proven to be pretty healthy, but what about the other guys? Because you have Yandy Diaz who's beat up. You have Jose Siri who seems pretty alright, but he could regress later on. You could say the same thing about everybody else on the team, but Harold Ramirez looks like a good candidate, but he could also regress. Give me 1 second to look up the other people on the roster.
Don't they have Christian Bethancourt as well?
Yep, and Francisco Mejia as well. They have Wander Franco. They just gotta make sure he's healthy. Isaac Paredes Isak Paredes needs to stay consistent. Josh Lowe needs to keep up what he's doing. 50 Cent needs to keep it up over there. Mr. Manuel.
You're talking to Randy Rosa right now.
No, I'm talking Manuel Margot. Manuel Margot is 50 Cent if he was a baseball player. He's a PIMP, my dog. I don't know what you've heard about me. Look up Manuel Margot, and you cannot tell me that he doesn't look
the same 50 Cent.
Yes, Curtis Jackson. I'm talking Curtis Jackson. My dog, 50 Cent.
I know who you're talking about when you say that, but I'm like, why in the world? Because I thought you were going the Randy Arozarena route with that, with how much he likes to pimp third base and just...
No. Manuel Margot is 50 Cent if he was a baseball player. Like, the look and everything. I was quoting one of 50 Cent's songs, PIMP.
I knew where you were going. I'm not that unsavvy with rap game. That song came out when I was in middle school.
Shit, I was probably elementary school.
I have aged myself in saying that. The album Get Rich or Die Trying came out when I was in 7th grade.
I was probably like in 3rd or 4th grade when that came out.
You and I are about 7 years apart?
I think so. So really it was probably like
you'd have been in kindergarten.
Dude, I was probably in first or second grade.
Get Rich or Die Trying came out in 2003.
Okay, you're right. My bad.
I was like, it's like, Ruckus, you're the same age as my youngest sister. Yes, I have 2 siblings. I know. I was like, this is...
I don't know what
this
you
kind of
heard
speaks for
about
itself.
me.
I'm sorry, that joke needs to go.
Go into club. All right.
What? This has just.
We were talking about the Rays. So, honestly, in my opinion, I think the Rays just need to keep at what they're doing, but they need to like bulk up on both offense and defense, because pitching could be a problem if Glasnow doesn't stay healthy, and especially if McClanahan goes out for a longer period of time than what they're saying because of his back issues. I think they need to bolster up some things. But their farm system is pretty good with pitching. They've been known to be really good with pitching. So I think mainly they need to focus on their offense.
I think if they were to push themselves to get a reasonable deadline deal, they don't need to go out and get like the big splash.
Right.
But this is also something that the Rays are not normally known to do. They're not normally known for really making huge things in the deadline, or really making huge splash player signings.
What if they traded for Kevin Kiermaier?
I mean, Kevin Kiermaier would... I mean, Jose Siri's already a speed demon in center field, but Kevin Kiermaier, his specialty, and what really kind of made him known for the Rays, especially when he was with the Rays, was for his defense. So if the Rays are playing that solid defensively, if their pitching kind of holds themselves under control and they've got another solid defender in Kevin Kiermaier, that's something. I mean, that's something, but I don't know if really the Rays would make a solid deal to get Kevin Kiermaier back, to be quite honest. I think we're still about a month out, so we really don't know who's solidly going to be in the trade deadline talk.
True that.
I don't think we start finding out a ton of that until at least maybe the next week, 2 weeks tops is kind of like the early names that kind of float around. And then normally the spice kind of pops up about another week after that.
All right.
The spiciness kind of comes in the middle of July, and then ultimately it just gets served up right at the end.
All right. Should we stay in the AL?
The Rays possibly have enough. I believe that the Rays possibly have enough to make a deep run, but they might need to make a small, reasonable deadline deal for something that could supplement themselves, and I think they would only get it from a reasonable seller.
Right. Especially because they're cheap as fuck, or as AF, yeah.
They are probably one of those, they're like how Billy Beane created the process of Moneyball. It's like as if the Rays have perfected the formula.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Rays have done the perfect formula of not spending for major players that can make huge impacts, and not making big. And they're kind of the best team at not making huge splashes. They're not splashy, but with that, they're so consistently good that, as a fan of the AL East, they can become quite annoying because of how consistently effective they are in this style of franchise making.
Yeah.
But now we'll go over to the other side and talking about the AL West with the Angels.
All right.
The Halos are above 500. They were at least 42 and 37, and it looks like they are currently 42 and 37. So they're 6 games out for the AL West lead, and they're kind of in a contending position. They scored 25 runs in a game on Friday, which I still believe that you kind of really should take Friday's performance with a grain of salt. I think very much a grain of salt. And they recently added Mike Moustakas and as Ruckus even said, Eduardo Escobar. Are the Angels even really in the hunt to try and make the World Series?
I think I think they have a good run at it. I don't know if they're necessarily. I don't know how far down they would die into this rabbit hole of getting to the postseason, but the way they're rolling right now, they seem to be doing a good job of keeping consistency with Otani and Trout. Like they're both working well together. Then you had the punch of Taylor Ward and Hunter Renfro, and then eventually you have Brandon Drury and the others kind of marching on.
I am going to say that my answer to this question for will the Angels make the World Series? My answer is no. I do not believe that the Angels are good enough at this particular point in time. I am taking that 25-1 game on Friday with such a very small grain of salt.
Are you gonna take the world smallest violin as well?
No, Mr. Krabs can still have that. But I'm at least taking the reason why I'm taking it with like such a small grain of salt is who were the Angels playing in that game? The Colorado Rockies. And correct me if I'm wrong. The Colorado Rockies are the second worst team in the National League. They are the third. They have the third, actually fourth worst record in baseball. So, with that itty bitty grain of salt, that's out of the picture. Like that is not of a concern. I'm not concerned. Like this is an aberration. It's an abnormalcy. Shohei Ohtani is doing great. He's a leading candidate for MVP. Okay, I get that. But with other teams in the AL surging as hot as they are, I believe there will be a team that could be sitting at about 83 to 85 wins in the wild card race and will miss the playoffs on the very last day. Game 162. Or even more so, that we will see a game 163 and possibly for a team 164 with about 3 teams in the wild card hunt sitting at about 83 to 85 wins because of how competitive and top loaded the AL is. And I do not believe the Angels will be a part of it.
The big bold statement there.
I believe we will see at least a 2 or 3-way tie at the end of the season in the wild card race for the American League, and the Angels will not be a part of it. At this point, unless the Astros surge, I see the Astros being more of a part of it than the Angels. Because here are the records among, let alone the American League East, that are up at the top of the wild card race. The Baltimore Orioles at 47-29. The New York Yankees at 43-35. Toronto at 43-36, and Boston at 40-39. Yes, I am saying my Red Sox because they're right there, that close to the Angels, that any slump from the Angels and a surge from the Red Sox could put the Red Sox in that contention. But then on top of that, you also have the Houston Astros, who are overall a little bit of what I would dare say maybe a better managed team. Phil Nevin has done an incredible job with the Angels. But there is just something to the testament of Dusty Baker and being seasoned and being as prepared as he is for this, that I think ultimately the Red Sox, the Astros, and every single team in the AL East will ultimately be what pushes the Angels out. The AL East will be what drives the Angels out. Simple as that. But we are going to stay. We're going to stay in the same city. We're going to go to Los Angeles. Over the last 3 years, the Dodgers have had a lot of major talent like Kike Hernandez, Cody Bellinger, Trey Turner and Justin Turner, Kenley Jansen, Max Scherzer, among others. But yet, the Dodgers are still 2.5 games behind the Arizona Diamondbacks, who have yet once again. Oh, the Dodgers are now 3 games behind, with the Giants a half game ahead of them. So it's now 3 games. But still all the same. They're right there within grasp of the NL West lead. Can the Dodgers surge and overtake the Diamondbacks for the NL West crown? And this also will say, can the Dodgers also keep the Giants at bay to secure the number 1 spot should the Giants continue to chase?
I think the Dodgers have a better chance over the Giants, to be honest. The Diamondbacks, I think it'll be a very close race between the Dodgers when the season gets closer to being over, to be honest. I think it'll be a more closer match between the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks for the division for the NL West.
I'm going to say this. I believe that we've got 3 managers there in the NL West who have found their complete wheelhouse in that division alone. And the funny thing is that none of those managers' names, as far as the NL West managers that have found the fit for them, none of them are named Bob Melvin. None of them. Dave Roberts, Gabe Kapler, and Arizona's manager of, I know we just talked about him, Torey Lovullo.
Yeah.
All 3 of those managers have found teams that have bought into their system.
So you're saying Bob Melvin hasn't been enough for players to buy in?
I'm saying that Bob Melvin, that you've got 3 teams that throughout this entire season have been clicking. Like,
Okay.
they're like what they are doing, whatever they're doing over there on those 3 teams, it's working.
Okay.
I think that Bob Melvin. Now, don't get me wrong, the San Diego Padres have a heck of a lot of talent.
I agree with you. I was just curious on what your position was.
But I just don't think that the Padres have meshed.
It's kind of hard to mesh, though, also because of all that talent that's there, which is, like, more of an alpha talent, where it's like everyone thinks that they're better, or at least equal or better than each other, kind of like... It's like if you had the Miami Heat from 2011 or whatever, or 2010, but you tripled that. Like, I feel like that's very hard to manage.
Well,
right? Or
I think
wrong?
it's I think you're talking more like the Dallas. I think it's going to be more like the Dallas Mavericks in scale.
Okay.
The current state of the Dallas Mavericks, where you've got a ball dominant alpha dog in Kyrie Irving and a ball dominant alpha dog in a different fashion than Luka Doncic, where it just doesn't add up. You got the Lakers with LeBron James, who's a ball dominant player, and Russell Westbrook, who is a ball dominant player.
Mm-hmm.
There's not enough ball to go around in terms of a basketball floor. It's like a football team with like 3 bomb receivers, but yet on a team that either has a quarterback that can't get it to him, or a running back that, or a team that also is under a philosophy of running the football. Something with what the Padres have going on just doesn't fit. So I think the Padres are going to kind of plummet themselves out. The Arizona Diamondbacks, I think they are the team that is ultimately going to be the biggest thing to worry about for the Dodgers. But the Giants are a team of very under-the-radar type players that are playing very, very effectively together. And that says something. That's a testament to who Gabe Kapler is. There's testaments to who Dave Roberts is. But I think the Diamondbacks will go only as far as Corbin Carroll will take them. And if Corbin Carroll is going to be that one bat that can ultimately lead the way, or at least be the major driving force that leads the Diamondbacks to the promised land, I don't think the Dodgers can stop it.
All right.
And last but not least, we have the Cincinnati Reds. The Cincinnati Reds had been white hot until losing 2 of 3 to the Braves over the weekend. Joey Votto has returned, and Elly De La Cruz has been playing out of his mind, including an instance where he hit for the cycle within the last couple of weeks. This is the NL Central race that has kind of found its way to heating itself up. And the Reds were not necessarily among those top contenders in the NL Central when we spoke 2 months ago. Will the Reds be able to keep this riding and make the playoffs?
They need to have consistency on the edge for De La Cruz and many other players besides him if they want to keep this up. Yes, they're on a hot streak, but will that hot streak stay for long? Like, it's got to be consistent. It can't just be for a month and then the whole team implodes again. Like, you gotta keep going even when the season restarts and starts at 0 again. where everything's an even playing field, because that's what the playoffs is in a sense. Once you get there, everything is reset to where you had to give it your best, even when you showed your best in the regular season.
Oh, I wasn't talking about them like once they got there.
Right.
That's
I
about
was
a
just
step.
I was just
No,
saying in
that's about a step
general.
ahead. That's about a step. That's about a step too far ahead of what I'm asking.
Oh, I was just
You're,
saying they just need to keep it up. But I was
you're about a
also
step. You're about a step too far. That's why I said, will the Reds be able to stay hot and get to the playoffs?
right. I was just saying like as far as like once they get to the playoffs, they need to uh realize what they're going against after that. I wasn't saying like, oh, they're gonna get to the wild card or whatever. But yeah. Anyways,
Yeah,
yes, I get
I'm.
what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm gonna say my answer to this. My answer to this is gonna be yes. I think yes, they will stay. I think they will find a sense of surging, and be able to push themselves ahead. They're currently a half game ahead of the Brewers, 3 games ahead of the Cubs, and 5.5 ahead of the Pirates. And this AL Central is all decided with all 5 teams within 8.5 of each other. So this is competitive. This is competitive. It's holding itself together. And yes, I think the Reds have a good possibility. But I think it's going to come to I think even some of these division races, especially in the AL Central, if this holds the way that it does and stays this steady throughout the entire season, game 163 for the NL Central is not an impossibility. It just isn't. It's not something to be ruled out. And these teams in the NL Central could probably push the AL Central teams out of the playoffs if they were over there. They would be entirely capable. Yes, this is a sign that the AL Central is currently a division that is a cesspool full of crap. But besides that, the NL Central is a competitive race. Who knows? Maybe the Cubs find a way to surge. And we could be talking about this about another month and a half from now. That the Cubs are surging in this position. The Pirates wake up. The Cardinals finally get themselves together and kind of push something in there that makes it a little more challenging in the NL Central. We don't know. But this NL Central race is one that is worth sitting, watching, eating your popcorn, and enjoying. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride that is the AL Central, or no, the NL Central and the AL East races.
Yep.
Because and I would also even say the NL West at the top, the NL West divisional race at the top. Those are the 3 races: the AL East, the NL Central, and the NL West. Buckle up your seatbelt because number one, this is going to be a wild ride. And if you have some time to enjoy it, get your popcorn ready. And now we go into talking about our primetime game. We didn't have one. We haven't had any recently. But this week, we have a theme team showdown. And Ruckus, tell them the theme.
All right. So this theme for this week is Theme Team Showdown, as is called
I've
Wheel.
said that.
Sorry, my
I was just
bad.
telling you, get to the theme. Get to the theme, Ruckus.
Wheel of MLB divisions. So for each position, we have a catcher, first base, second base, third base, shortstop, left field, center field, right field, DH, bench, rotation, and bullpen. A random division will be assigned to Ruckus and I to complete a team and complete in a single 9-inning game. Results of which divisions we receive for each position will be revealed, and the final score and game summary will be available on episode 61. The video will be on Ruckus and The Menace YouTube. So,
And Ruckus just spoke in the third person.
that's okay.
Or just said that both of them came on behalf of Ruckus and I wrote it like as if it was me speaking it, but it was actually Ruckus, so it should be Menace and I.
That's okay.
But that's beside the point.
Alright.
Here are some other additional clauses that we added as we selected teams and as we went along. Though we decided that positionally, left field, the outfield positions, left field, center field, and right field were set individually, I also declared that bench, rotation, and bullpens were done as units. The second thing we applied, actually, after we had a coin toss, of which I rolled a d6 evens or odds. Ruckus also had the choice of home field or getting pick priority first. So if there was a point where the wheel spun for each of us and we both ended up with the exact same division, we then had to choose which team we each had. We each chose for that. So if we do mention a team at any point, it is because we both had the same division. Pick priority started with me, and as each one happened, and I'm going to give you the spoiler, that this happened a grand total of 4 times. Once I had pick priority on one position, we then, if it happened again, Ruckus would pick first for that particular situation. Then it would come back to me, Ruckus, for each time it happened, and so on and so forth. So Ruckus, starting at the position of catcher, what was your division?
My division was the NL Central.
Yes, and also with pick priority, my spins were done first. Normally Ruckuses are done first in these circumstances, but because Ruckus chose home field, pick priority and the order of which we spun the wheel and who received those first also went to me. So I basically, in certain senses, I had first pick. I had first pick versus home field. So you said your catcher was in the
NL Central.
NL Central? I had the AL Central. At first base, we both had the NL Central, and this was the first round where my pick priority was put into play. I chose the St. Louis Cardinals, which once I said that I was taking the St. Louis Cardinals, we clearly knew who I was taking. It kind of spoke for itself. And Ruckus, yours also being the NL Central, the team you chose for that was
the Cincinnati Reds.
Yep. And then, second base, I again, for the second time, had the AL Central. And you ended up with NL Centrals back to back.
Mm-hmm.
But then your but then your second baseman ended up being a little different.
That's
Who'd
for
you
sure.
have?
I have
What
Wander
division did you have?
Franco for the AL East.
Well, Well, I wasn't unveiling players at this point, but because the players are going to be unveiled in the prime time, in the actual primetime video, which will be
All right.
releasing at
All
another
right.
point. But
AL East, Tampa Bay Rays. That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, yeah. I didn't. I just kept my divisions the way they were, unless I had to pick the team later. Second base, I had the AL Central. At third base, I had the NL West.
I had the AL Central for my third base.
And then shortstop, we both had the same thing happen again, as we both had the NL East. However, Ruckus had pick priority first.
And I picked the Mets.
And then I retorted back, and I took the Philadelphia Phillies. And then now we go to the outfield, where we had our left fielder. I had the NL West.
And I had the AL Central.
At center field, I had the NL East.
I had the NL Central.
At right field, I had the NL Central.
At right field, I had the AL East.
And that was also the second time that AL East was picked up, and Ruckus was the only person to have the AL East at any point in time. The designated hitter, we both had the AL Central, but I also had the first pick of players of teams at that particular time. I took the Chicago White Sox. And Ruckus snagged.
I picked the Detroit Tigers.
And then we move to our bench units.
Yes, sir.
Into our unit lineups. I had the only time that this division was ever picked, the AL West. I was the only person to have the AL West, and I had it in a very, very unfortunate spot. The bench. My bench unit. But Ruckus's bench was just as good, if not maybe a little bit better.
The NL East was my bench.
But then we both had rotations in the NL West. And at this point, Ruckus had the first pick.
Which was the Giants.
And I took the San Diego Padres. And then our bullpens, I had the NL Central.
And then I had the NL East.
And later on this week, the primetime game for this will be released to you on the Ruckus and the Menace YouTube channel.
Yes, sir.
But then you also, for those that do not bother to check the YouTube, you will hear of the results of this game next week. Next week on the primetime game segment of the Ruckus and the Menace podcast. And now that we go and we start to wrap things up here, as we go into our stud and dud of the week.
Woohoo! Alright, do you want me to go first?
Go for it.
Alright, my stud of the week is Angels scoring 25 runs in a single game, breaking a previous record of 24 runs scored in a game. It also tied a record for most runs in an inning with 13 for the Los Angeles Angels.
And I once again take this performance with a grain of salt. With a pinch of salt. Not because it wasn't important, but because it was against a team that it really, quite frankly, mattered not.
All right, do you want me to do my dud and then?
Yep.
All right.
Go ahead.
And then my dud that matched that was Brenton Doyle, the center fielder, was not seeing an easy fly ball that continued the onslaught of scoring by the Angels. He missed it in, I believe, the lights that were around the outfield of the stadium at Coors Field.
Yeah. It's a little more forgivable because there are certain times that if you are at a certain field and a certain skyline, as the sun sets, there is a little twilight period where it's very, very difficult to see a baseball in the air, especially when it gets hit high enough. There is a field here not too far from my home that at twilight time, kind of right around that sunset, that like very, very late sunset, a ball could be hit sky high. And I have seen high school players lose it. And because it's landed right at a spot where the player doesn't even see it, there's situations where it could become, especially if not careful, an inside the park home run. Just simply because the ball was hit so high and deep enough in the center where you just couldn't see it in a trouble spot.
Yeah.
So I know that you could kind of say that was an easy fly ball. Kermit the Frog did have to say it best that it's not easy being green. So it's really not that easy even being a Major League Baseball player in trying to navigate a ball in the sky.
Well, you don't have to deal with Miss Piggy like that, but we'll just leave it at that, okay? All right.
Waka waka.
Ozzy, you're not that funny.
Why in the world did we just impersonate?
I don't know, but do your sudden dud, for love of God.
On that note, I am going to have an honorable mention as a local person from my area. Jake Stevens just signed an Exhibit 10 deal with the Sacramento Kings. An Exhibit 10 deal is that it's for a year at minimum salary, but it allows the franchise to convert the contract into a two-way deal if it is made before if that decision is made before the beginning of the regular season. So he's got a chance. And just for the record, this kid is a 7-footer that he was 6'9" as a freshman and could shoot threes. And could shoot. He became a 7-footer that still can shoot. But my real stud for this week goes to PGA golfer Keegan Bradley for finishing at a 23 under par, 257 total strokes as a 4-round performance, which is a scoring record for the Travelers Championship, as the 4 rounds were a 62, 63, 64, and a 68 at the Players Champ at the TPC River Highlands course. This is like the reason why this kind of mattered is because, I mean, miss the cut in a whole bunch of tournaments, and all of a sudden you just have just this one tournament where you surge, and the performance was worth worth the recognition. Though I think there was also some funny stuff involving. There was also some other funny stuff that couldn't really fit, but the dud. Oh, it was the Angel. It was one of the. Oh, it was the Angels' scoreboard operator of some sort back there in the Angels press box that they put a picture of the Dodgers catcher Will Smith, and he said he was clearly not getting jiggy with it.
I saw that.
It that was pretty funny, but I just think that this Keegan Bradley thing for my stud overshadowed it. And my dud this week, in speaking of the King Richard actor, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Tyreek Hill, though my dud, for going Will Smith on a marina employee, resulting in an assault and battery charge.
By the way, go ahead.
Basically, he just went and slapped the crap out of a marina employee. Although it was to the back of the head instead of the face.
And let's be honest here, Tyreek Hill, as a Chiefs fan, we have known in the past for him having issues off the field as well. One of them being, I believe it was assaulting either his kid or his
where there was a domestic violence issue that he never got suspended.
Right. So this isn't news to us, but at the same time, it is a bit surprising that he would do it in Miami, but it is what it is.
All right, so kind of in closing here, we're in the top of the ninth, and the LSU Tigers are up 16-4 on the Gators. So
Looks like they're gonna.
So it is looking like the College World is going to be going from Omaha to Baton Rouge.
Looks like that fried gator's gonna be nice and tasty.
Just take us out. Take us
All
out.
right. All right.
This is getting out of hand.
I mean, it'll be very hot potato from all that fried gator. But anyways, this is the Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast, episode number 60. I am Ruckus.
And I am not enthused. I'm Spanish the Menace.
We'll see you later. And also, remember to leave us a like on these videos, share with your friends. Also, we're on other platforms like Spotify, Amazon Music, Stitcher.io, and YouTube as well, obviously. We'll see you later.
Deuces.